There we go. All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this session of our Culture of Care Summit. We're going to still take a couple of minutes and let folks get logged into this session. We'll start in another minute or two. While we get warmed up, though, we want to get the chat warmed up and get some engagement going. I always like to say, back in the old days, these kind of summits, right? Before virtually, we'd be in a big conference room, shaking hands, hugging each other, passing out business cards, things like that. So let's get some activity going. And the way I want to do that is invite you all to think about what a culture of care means to you. So in one word, if you would please put into the chat what that word would be that defines what culture of care means to you. For me, it's support. And I chose this word because without the support that I've received from so many people throughout my career and my life, I would not be here today. So my word is support. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. And I welcome everyone to share your word. Yeah, make sure I spelled it right. I love that. Seeing these great words. Community, yes, all about community. Belonging, authenticity. Definitely trust. Transparency. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. And we're going to still take another minute. So if you're just joining, have asked everyone as we get our chat warmed up here to share one word that signifies what a culture of care means to you. So what is that word or words? We don't have to stick to just one. Compassion. That's a good one, Bruce. I like that. So important. Let us know what that word is that you resonate with when you think of culture of care. When I was thinking about this earlier, another word that came to mind for me is village. I'm always telling people it just takes a village to get through life. Whether it's in work or school or raising a family, it takes a village. We wouldn't be here without our village. Okay, well, I sure appreciate everyone participating in that. And, if you haven't had a chance to come up with your word, feel free to add that, and feel free to add some that might come up throughout the time that we're here together. Thank you so much. Empathy. That is so true. All right. Well, I think we are ready to get started. So hello and welcome to It Starts with Cultivating a Culture of Care in Your Workplace. We are so excited and appreciate all of you being part of this 2-day summit and taking time to invest in yourself and each other. My name is Kelly Wood, and I am a senior account executive here at the University of Arizona Global Campus, and I'm part of our business education services team. Our team works with organizations across all business sectors, providing learning solutions to meet the education, upskilling, and professional development needs for their workforce. So for those of you who may have attended a couple other sessions, we've got over 50 sessions over the next 2 days here. Really hope that you're enjoying your experience. And if you're joining us for just this session, we think you've made an excellent choice. So leading with care and purpose is really what this summit aims to inspire in all of us. And I'm very honored just to be a part of an organization that I've been a part of now for 10 years that changes lives, not only by what we do, but how we do it. At UAGC, we believe that our culture of care provides an opportunity for individuals to thrive academically, professionally, personally, just and creating a transformative student experience that has a lifelong impact. And as an MBA grad myself here at UAGC, I can personally attest that going through my degree program with students that came from many other diverse backgrounds was absolutely one of the highlights. Just like here in my workplace, my classmates and I were all different in many different ways. And I gained a wealth of knowledge and perspective that changed me and inspired me and has helped me grow and become a better person. So if you're joining today and you're part of the MBA class of 2022, congratulations again, and thank you for making a difference in my life, truly. Now, I am super excited to introduce you to our talented leadership panel that's here today. We have handpicked this team because they have been recognized as leaders for creating, initiating, and carrying out care within their company that has made a significant impact, not only for their business, but for their workforce and the community. So I know you are going to be very inspired by what you hear today. So without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce you to our panelists. First up, we have Brittny Ferguson. And to get you on the screen, Brittny, say a quick hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today.
Great. Brittny is the Assistant Vice President and Sales Support Manager for US Bank and our 2020 MBA Alum of the Year. Thank you so much for being here today, Brittny.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Next, Heidi Beeman. Heidi, let's show everyone who you are.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here today.
Great. Heidi is a team manager for SoCalGas and instructional design and part of the instructional design and creative services team. And she is also one of our MBA alums, class of 2024. And next we have Ms. Jessica Smith. Jessica, let us see you.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jessica. And Ms. Jessica Smith is Director of Inside Sales for Cox Automotive and a two-time grad of UAGC. She earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Leadership in 2022 and moved straight on into her Master's of Science in Psychology, finishing her degree in 2023. And last but definitely not least is Mr. David Lawrence Patterson. David, let everyone see who you are.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, David. And David is the Director of Organizational Development for HumanGood and President of HumanGoodU. So one last thing before we get started here is, we encourage everyone, if you have questions, to submit those into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, or you can put them in the chat. We should have about 5 or 10 minutes at the end of this wonderful discussion, and we'll get to as many as we can. So I am ready to turn the baton over to our amazing facilitator, Ms. Brittny Ferguson. Thank you all.
Thank you so much again, Kelly, for that wonderful introduction. And again, good morning or good afternoon, based on wherever you are. We are so excited to be with you today, and you are in for a real treat because we have a panel of amazing experts in their field, and we are so happy to be part of the UAGC family. So with that said, let's get this journey started. So a culture of care, right? What is that? So it typically refers to an environment, whether it be in a workplace, a school, a community, where relationships and well-being are prioritized over other goals, emphasizing compassion, empathy, and support for all involved. Now, that said, it could still look and feel incredibly different to all of us based on our personal circumstances. So, I'd love to open up this discussion with an icebreaker question and get a few different perspectives from our panelists. So, Heidi, we will start with you, my friend. What does a culture of care mean to you personally?
Sure, thanks. A culture of care to me means fostering a sense of belonging and ensuring that each individual's well-being is a priority. This type of culture really encourages open communication, empathy, and mutual support, really allowing us to thrive both personally and professionally. And it goes beyond just those grand gestures. It's also about those small everyday actions like expressing gratitude and checking in, celebrating those milestones and personal achievements to really show that you genuinely care about one another. Here at SoCalGas, we have a value of champion people. And this really emphasizes supporting and empowering individuals within the company and the community. This value is reflected not only in our commitment to creating a positive and inclusive workforce, but also to fostering professional growth and engaging with the community to really make that meaningful impact.
Thank you so much, Heidi. I love that. And the small actions, right? Those are the building blocks, as you mentioned. And so those are so important and beneficial. So, again, appreciate you sharing that with us. Jessica, I will move over to you. Same question.
Thank you. Thank you for asking, Brittany. For me, I'm going to share from the perspective of not only a woman of color in corporate America, but being in the automotive industry, it's certainly a male dominating environment, right? So, with that said, a culture of care for me means creating an environment where everyone feels valued. You know, I think Heidi touched on it, respected, supported, but also involves recognizing and celebrating me for my differences, ensuring that my voice, everyone's voice is heard, and just creating that environment that embraces that. So, having the freedom to bring my authentic self to work without fear of judgment or discrimination. And most importantly, it means having access to mentorship and opportunities for growth, knowing that my well-being is priority for the organization. And here, I will say that I am so grateful for being in a community like Cox, where empathy, understanding, and mutual respect are at the forefront of their core values at Cox Automotive. And it really is ingrained in their DNA as a family business. So just super grateful for that.
Well, shout out to Cox Automotive because it sounds like they really understand the power of that, right? And then you being able to bring your authentic work self to work every single day, right? No matter what you do, day in and day out, is so important. So thank you for sharing, Jessica. And last but certainly not least, we will move over to you, David. So what does that mean to you personally?
Well, I definitely want to echo what my colleagues have said up here. I think that they have definitely laid the groundwork, some profound statements. So I'd like to round us out with a very brief story of one of my colleagues tells. Her father, who has since passed away, would be greeted with others and they would say, "Mr. Miranda, it's nice to see you." And he would turn around and joke with them and say, "It's nice to be seen." And Martha, my colleague, took that to heart and said, "When my dad used to say that it's nice to be seen, I felt that. And I think other people feel that." And I think a culture of care for us, in addition to what my colleagues have shared, is do we see each other for who we truly are? And I took that to heart after she shared it with me, and I want to share it with you today.
I love that, right? First of all, do I see you and am I seen? So I
Mhm.
think that that is key and just something that we definitely should make note of. So thank you for sharing, David. I appreciate that icebreaker question, and really appreciate you all for defining how a culture of care can be viewed through a different lens, right? Based on our diverse situations. The common themes that I heard were a focus on relationships, showcasing empathy and compassion, being your authentic self, prioritizing support and well-being, and just fostering environment to ensure inclusivity and equality exists. So love that. And I think we'll keep that same flow going as we jump into our questions. So Heidi, I will circle back around to you. How can leaders and individual contributors balance organizational goals with fostering a culture that prioritizes employee well-being?
Thank you. Such a great question. And I think that often we hear phrases like, I need more work life balance, or if I could just achieve work life balance, everything would be great. However, the concept of work life balance is flawed because it really sets up work and life as being two separate opposing forces that really need to be balanced against one another. And this approach is really unrealistic because we know that balance requires that everything be perfectly aligned, and that's highly impractical. Like the moment something unexpected happens or an additional task gets put on your plate, that balance is disrupted. So instead, I really encourage us to focus on the pursuit of something called work life synergy. And I really enjoy author and consultant Marcus Buckingham. If you haven't looked him up, encourage you to do so. And he really suggests that work isn't separate from life, it's actually an integral part of it. So, work life synergy really provides mutual benefit by focusing on ways that we can intertwine our work and personal life to support each other.
That is so interesting. I have never ever heard that term before, work-life synergy. That's awesome. A really good concept, Heidi. So I'll pose this next question to you, and then our other panelists, feel free to jump in on this after Heidi. But do you have any recommendations for practical strategies or tools that you've seen implemented successfully in this area?
Yeah, one that comes to mind right now, for example, if you enjoy doing yoga, you might figure out how to incorporate that into your workday by potentially leading a yoga session for colleagues. I know this is something that is happening right now at SoCalGas. And this type of session not only benefits your well being, but also fosters a positive work environment. I think that flexibility is also crucial for achieving that work life synergy. And this might involve things like flexible work hours or remote work options, or even the ability to just adjust your schedule a little bit to accommodate personal commitments. The goal really is to create a working environment that supports overall well being. And work life synergy really encourages viewing life as a whole, where work and personal activities are interconnected. So I think research has shown too that companies that promote this type of work life synergy may see higher employee satisfaction and retention by offering additional benefits as well, like mental health support and family leave, professional development opportunities. I know we all talked about being grads of UAGC. This way, employers can create a more supportive culture that enhances both personal and professional growth. But I have to say that achieving work life synergy really requires effort and personal decisions. It's not something that can be given or defined for us. It has to be something that we actively pursue and protect.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Heidi. A lot of good nuggets there. Jessica, anything that you'd like to add to that? Any other perspectives?
Well, first of all, I love it. Heidi, the work life synergy, I couldn't have come up with a better term. That's amazing. And that's my big takeaway from this so far. And here, there's a lot of companies that are moving away from the remote work, but I would really encourage companies to just really look at your business and your people and don't just follow suit because this is what everyone's doing. You got to do what's best for your business and for your people. So I'll start there. Things like the flexible work arrangements, that has been something that has been very successful with me and my teams and really promoting that. I have friends that are leaders at other company where they've went to a compressed work week. And I think that all those things allow employees to better, integrate their work and their personal lives. and it reduces stress, increases overall satisfaction, all those good things that you said. And here in the world of sales, that stuff is crucial. I mean, we're not just for the people, but for the business, because in many cases we have high revenue goals that are tied to our people. So we really have to think about our people first. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. And then David, lastly, I'll come to you. Any other perspectives that you would like to add?
Absolutely. Our business and Human Good is we work in senior housing, and we take our resident life as serious as we take our team member life, because we really are two sides of the same coin. And so we want to inhabit it, or we want to promote wellness for both our team members and our residents. And one of the elements we're talking about is health span, specifically with our residents, in that many of them are in their later stages of life and facing health challenges. What can we do as an organization to help promote better health span? So we are actually working with the Wellness Institute on 6 dimensions of wellness for residents. But then we turned it around and said, why couldn't we do the same for our team members? And they are intellectual, occupational, spiritual, social, emotional, and physical dimensions of wellness. So when we are creating programs, when we are creating strategies for either people, internal, or our customers, aka residents, we look at these 6 dimensions to say, how can we boost these with either one of those populations? Because it may look different for some, but in some ways it may be the same.
I love that, David. The 6 dimensions of wellness, right? I wrote that down. And then Heidi introduced the concept of work-life synergy. So when I think about that, the word harmony actually popped into my mind pretty immediately. And so finding like that harmonious equilibrium between things that are mutually beneficial in our personal and professional life feels like it takes some of that pressure off. Quite honestly, right? Sometimes I find that even my best intended plans go awry because things come up unexpectedly, right? We get disrupted. Life is lifing and it happens. And that can oftentimes lead to a lot of frustrations. I don't think I'm alone out there when I say that, right? But taking advantage of the new Calm app, as an example, which is something that my employer, US Bank, decided to put into our benefits package this year. So I've been utilizing that, and it combines the two, right? Personal and professional. And it's really helped me as of late because they're interconnected, just like all things are in life, right? So that actually takes us into our next question. And so this time I will actually start with you, Jessica. So what role does diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, play in creating a workplace culture of care? And part 2, how can organizations ensure that these values are embedded into their well-being initiatives?
Yes. Thank you, Brittany. I love this question. It's an area that I'm super passionate about. So DEI is, first of all, it's all about making sure everyone feels valued, respected, and supported in the workplace. But you don't have to call it DEI. Let me just put that out there. Let's take that label off of it, because it's really just about treating people right. When we care for everyone equally, we create a better and more innovative workplace. Just that simple. Now, when we talk about embedding this into our well-being initiatives, I think some of the things that come to mind would be, first and foremost, inclusive policies, creating policies that support everyone, like parental leave. And we talked about flexible work options. There are people that need that. This is not a perk. There are people that need that. Accommodations for disabilities. There are people that need that. This shows that we care about each and every person's unique needs. Training programs. Regular training helps everyone understand the importance of treating each other with respect and fairness. And I'm sorry, we can't just assume that people know that because we're adults and we should know that. It's not that simple. So it's about building a culture where everyone feels included, and sometimes it takes a training program to help people understand that or to be aware of it. Employee resource groups, that's a big one at Cox. Our ERGs, these are support groups where employees can connect, share experience, and really support each other. And these groups can also be a valuable feedback option for organizations. So in the end, it's really, for me, it's basic human rights and morals, making sure that everyone has the chance to not just survive, but to thrive. So I'm doing my best. If we want to remove the word DE&I, let's do it. Let's remove it and let's just call it for what it is. And it's just making sure that we care for everyone.
I love that. It's something that needs to be built into our DNA. And when it comes down to it, it's really just about how we care for one another. That's it. Simply put, and I also love how you mentioned that being diverse and inclusive and creating equitable opportunities can ultimately lead to every person receiving the opportunity to not just survive, but to thrive, as you mentioned. So on a human level, ensuring that, diversity and equity and inclusion has a place in your organization or educational institution means that you're tuned in. You're listening, and you're aware that inequality and injustice can exist, right? And you're trying to solve for that. You're responding with actionable change and building a culture of respect and understanding. So thank you so much, Jessica, for that. Now, I really love this next question because it takes a deep dive into the how. So, moving on to you, David, how can organizations measure the success of well-being initiatives, both in terms of employee satisfaction and then overall business performance?
For sure. So at HumanGood, we do use data just like any other organization to help us be better. And I've seen it said sometimes, oh, never take your employee engagement survey because people are watching. And if you're out there listening, I would just like to say that the privacy index on these is pretty robust if you're using a reputable company. So let me put your mind at ease. I feel like I have to put that plug out there as somebody who utilizes this a lot to do my work. But that's one data point. Another data point we look at are things like, are people leaving? Why are they leaving? And can we get that information? Can we help our leaders be better to nurture and support growth rather than hold people back? But I would say one of the biggest indicators of us, one of the focuses that we need to see is referrals. And this goes, again, I'll talk to both sides of our business, from our team members to our residents. Are people telling others that they love it here and they would refer their friends and family? Because to us, I know I'm going to sound like a salesperson here, but there is no better compliment than to say, hey, you should come live here. Or to have one of our team members say, it's so good here that you should come work here. And so we track that as well. We track our referrals very carefully, and we look at areas where we're not having referrals. And we want to go in and ask, what's going on? Can we look at other data points like engagement from the survey? Can we look at cost of outside labor and things like that? I mean, it's all important data, and it all begins to tell a story. But at the end of the day, we do need to talk to people too. We need to hear from those who are saying our organization is great. We need to hear from those that are saying our organization is not so great, whether it's our residents or our team members. So I would say that from it, all data tells a story. Talking to people is going to help us to make sense of what those data points say.
Yeah. Feedback is a gift, no matter what it looks or sounds like, right? And so I think we have to view it as such. And I love the referral, mention, right? How many times do we tell people about things that we don't like? And how
Right.
many people do we tell that? So it really is a gift, if you are telling someone and giving personal testimony, right? To, hey, this was a really good experience and I like this and I recommend this to you. So that definitely makes sense, David. So next question for you. How can individual contributors leverage their efforts and participation to show their contributions and impact to the business?
Well, Jessica set me up beautifully to talk about ERGs, employee resource groups, and this is something that we are implementing at HumanGood. But there's a precursor to employee resource groups, and that is within our leadership is to ask the question consistently of who is not at the table, and to create those opportunities for folks that are not at the table to have their voice brought in. And that's how we landed on employee resource groups, except we stepped outside of the traditional affinity groups that we may think of, where people use identifying factors to join an employee resource group. And we started two. The first one is our emerging leaders. This is individual contributors who have raised their hand to say they want to go through our emerging leaders program. And one thing that's really cool I love about our Emerging Leaders program, not just because my team was helpful in designing it, but because it is an open enrollment program. Anybody can enroll. It doesn't matter what shift, because we are a 24/7 operation. It doesn't matter what location, and it doesn't matter if they're able to attend live. We've set it up to where folks can engage in this learning space. Our second phase, because we do ask of all of our development programs, they're a get give, that we ask people to give back. We ask them to step up into the organization to answer that question of who's not at the table, to say, it's important that we hear from you and that you're a valuable member of our organization. And so we've created this community within the graduates of our emerging leader. The second program, or ERG, that was created at HumanGood was our college graduates. So anybody who's been through any of our tuition assistance programs, University of Arizona Global Campus is our largest at our organization, but whether they've gone through our Healthcare Academy or any of the others, we ask them to collaborate too. And the benefit that we get from this group is we are motivated, we are educated, and people are eager and willing to step in and help to improve our organization for the lives of our team members and the lives of our residents.
Well, first of all, hats off to you and your team for creating such a phenomenal and beneficial program. That is awesome. I can personally speak to the power of ERGs. Now, at US Bank, we call them BRGs, which is short for business resource groups, but conceptually, it's the same, right? And ours are actually built on various segments like the ones that you reference, right? I'm personally a member of 5 of them. I actually lead 2. So if your company offers anything like that, ERG, BRG, I highly recommend that you take advantage of these, right? And I always say BRGs are a really incredible way of making a large organization feel very small and personal and intimate. I built most of my network and mentorship relationships through the people and leaders that I got to interact with and know at BRG events or community events that BRGs were sponsoring. So it's definitely a great recommendation, David, in terms of making a positive impact to your business and well-being initiatives. So with that said, Heidi, switching gears, we're going to come back over to you, my friend. So a psychologically safe space within the workplace is essentially an environment that promotes trust, open communication, and mutual respect. It empowers individuals to bring their authentic selves to work, as Jess mentioned, fostering a culture of collaboration, innovation, and overall well-being, irrespective of their varying identities. So, how can leaders and managers encourage psychological safety?
Yeah, thanks. This is a really great question. Over the past couple of years, we at SoCalGas have really expanded our view on safety beyond just physical safety, or as I like to say, beyond the cones. And we've really created a safety culture that includes not only the safety of our employees, but also the safety of the public, our infrastructure, and our contractors. And a key part of this is actually fostering a psychologically safe space, as you mentioned, that is really essential for trust, open communication, and mutual respect. You asked, so what can we as leaders and managers do? Well, as leaders, there's a lot of things that we can do. And I would have to say at SoCalGas, we do this by leading by example, like showing vulnerability and openness by sharing our experiences and our challenges, demonstrating that, it's okay to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes. We also really encourage open communication through town halls, through team meetings, and even anonymous suggestion boxes, ensuring that all voices are not only heard, but valued. Really creating these safe spaces for dialogues aligns with our commitment as a speak up culture. I think it's really important, this clear communication of our values and expected behaviors ensure that everyone understands the importance of respect and collaboration. Because as Jessica alluded to earlier, we can't just assume that everybody knows the same thing. We need to make sure that we're clearly verbalizing. Really creating a psychologically safe environment encourages employees to share new ideas without the fear of judgment. This often leads to greater things like innovation and creative solutions, which is really important. When employees really feel valued and heard, they're more likely to be engaged, to be committed to their work, ultimately leading to higher productivity and better performance. A supportive and inclusive work environment increases employee retention, we found, as employees are more likely to stay with companies where they feel respected and appreciated. So, a lot of things we can do as leaders. I know I just scratched the surface, but hope that helps.
It definitely did, Heidi. I was taking some notes and I honestly couldn't agree more. And I really love the concept that your company introduced of creating spaces that feel safe and secure beyond the cones. So I love that. Essentially, slow down, hazard or danger zone ahead, and how can we solve for that, right? How can we be proactive versus reactive? So psychological safety, defined as a culture of rewarded vulnerability, provides the foundation for individuals to feel safe, to be their authentic selves, as we mentioned, right? And contribute their ideas without fear of judgment. I think that that's a huge one. And then psychological safety also nurtures an environment where people feel encouraged to share creative ideas, again, without fear, and share feedback. And that fosters, organizations that can create an environment where individuals thrive, teams excel, and innovation truly becomes a way of life. So thank you for that, Heidi. Moving on to you, Jess. So what are the most critical leadership behaviors when guiding a team through a period of significant change? Because change never happens, right?
Right.
And then how can employees actively participate in the change process to feel empowered and contribute positively?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, leading a team through change, and this is something that I learned in what I call my second life, my second wave of my career, because way back in the day, it was just this is what it is, shut up and deal with it. Like that was just the culture. Now I think that it really takes strong leadership and active participation from everyone, and that has to be okay with everyone. When I think about this, a few things come to mind. And the first one, I think Heidi said something about this, is transparent communication. So leaders need to keep everyone in the loop about what's changing and why. And I get, in leadership, sometimes we can't share everything, but there's always something that we can share. So I think this builds trust. It helps everyone see the bigger picture. And the sooner they can see that, the better off this change will be, because it really just eases worrying, and it helps through the whole process of change. The next thing I'll say is empathy. It's important for leaders to understand and support their team's concerns and their feelings. It is. And so that attitude of this is the way it is, just deal with it, that's gone away. It doesn't work. Showing empathy helps everyone just feel secure and valued through the change. And then the last one I'll say, and this is really big for me because involvement, like you have to, one, as the employee, you have to be in an environment where you feel that it's okay, but you have to have the trust and the confidence that you can speak up and say what you feel. So get employees involved by asking for that input and that feedback. And I think this really helps them feel empowered and ensures that you also have a diverse perspective to consider. So, when employees can stay informed about changes and understand how they impact their role, it helps them adapt more quickly. And that's really what you want during major change. Plus, asking feedback from the team, before making changes can lead to great suggestions and solutions. Some of the best change that I've had in different spaces has been with asking for feedback from my team, and they have great ideas. They're the ones out there on the front line. They know a lot. So it's just really just asking and being open to receive that feedback. So those strategies, I think, have really helped me navigate change over the years as a leader.
Those are some really incredible tips, Jessica. I love kind of, hey, I want to hear from you too, right? I know we mentioned earlier the power of feedback, but also just knowing that, hey, my opinion counts. Even if it doesn't change the situation or the
Right.
scenario, it counts. You want to know how I
I
feel.
heard you. Yeah.
I heard you. Yeah, right. I read this statistic recently and it really surprised me. It said that only 30% of leaders are actually confident in their change capabilities. So to hear about your past success with navigating change is very inspiring, and turning uncertainty into opportunity can be a very helpful lens to view change through. Great leaders must lead change, and as a leader, most of the change that they will face will be someone else's idea and not their own. And plenty of leaders, as you mentioned, can succeed in good times, but the true mettle of a leader emerges when times are uncertain, times where things are changing, right? And when change comes your way, and it inevitably will, it's arguably one of the strongest tests of a leader's capabilities. The leaders who show patience, stamina, emotional stability, resilience, and confidence are really the most valuable to an organization and to their team. So thank you again, Jessica, for that. Now, there are times when other challenges can come our way, outside of just something that is changing. So, David, this next question is for you, my friend. What are the most significant barriers to cultivating a culture of care in the workplace? And how can organizations overcome them to achieve long-term success?
Thank you, Brittany. So I want to go back to our dimensions of wellness as we look at creating this culture of care in the workplace, and pick one, for example. Maybe we'll say physical wellness. That's a huge challenge in the workplace because we don't want to dictate to people what physical fitness looks like to them, but we want to be able to encourage people to engage in activity that's going to promote their longevity, that's going to promote their well span, their health span. And so the question always comes up at the very beginning is, what is the cost benefit of doing this, right? We minimize wellness and well-being of our team members in this culture of care down to a cost of what it will mean if we do it versus if we don't do it. And I like to turn that question around and to ask the question of, what is the cost benefit of not doing it? And that can go forth for so many of our initiatives. When Jessica was talking about our DEI initiatives, when we were talking about, um, development of our team members and whatnot. And so we hold a strong philosophy of, we want to ask that question because we want to make sure that our team members understand it is more than just a cost, because ultimately, if we have people who are better for what we're trying to do, then everything gets better. And so you can't always put a cost on that. Now, we're a nonprofit, right? I understand no margin, no mission. So we do sometimes have to be selective about what we do. But if we're operating solely on how does it hit the bottom line, it's never going to get us to where we want to be. We will not be a mission-driven organization. We'll be a financially driven organization, which is fine, but we need to be clear about who we are. And if we've said we're a mission-driven organization with the boldness to have a name like HumanGood, well, we better be doing right by the humans in our organization to live up to that reputation.
Absolutely. I love that, David. Such a beneficial ad. You have to diversify your strategy and your approach. In most cases, to your point, we tend to weigh the benefits and costs associated with implementing new things, right? And how's this going to look and how's it going to work and what's the measurement of success? But we often don't consider the cost or benefits associated with not doing certain things nearly as much. So I really love your recommendation to consider both angles and kind of weigh them both. So thank you for that. Now, we are coming close to the end, everyone. And so we have one final question, and it's one that I'm actually going to pose to all of our amazing panelists. So, what are some practical strategies that employees can incorporate into their daily work routine to prioritize their mental and physical wellness? And how can organizations best support these practices? So, we'll stay in order. And Heidi, we'll start with you on this last round.
Sure. Kind of sad we're running out of time, but from an individual perspective, I think if I'm going to give one piece of advice here, it would be to set boundaries. And what do I mean by that? A couple of things. One, like defining what your work hours are and really sticking to that, and then communicating your availability to other people. As we know, especially for those who might work from home sometimes, those work hours can really just keep on going into your nighttime hours. So really making sure that you set that boundary for yourself and create yourself a space that is your dedicated workspace. That way, in there is where you do your work, and then outside is when you take care of yourself and your family and all of that. And again, turn off your notifications. Oftentimes, and we are stuck with that phone and we're getting those email notifications, and it's so easy for you just to take a quick look at it, and that quick look at it turns into, who knows how long responding and checking other things. From an organizational standpoint, I'm going to put it simply like this, and that is to continue to promote a healthy work environment by leading by example.
Amazing. Okay, so I wrote down 2 things that really stood out to me there, Heidi. First of all, I love stick to your set work hours and communicate when you're available, which also lets people know when you're not available. And if you're unavailable, truly be unavailable. So note to self, right? Stick to those hours for my own, wellness, right? And then I love also the lead by example. So whether you're a people leader, or not, this could even be something you can incorporate into your personal life with your family, but prioritize well-being and taking care of yourself. That's important, right? And the things that you say are important to you should really be reflected in your actions and the things that you prioritize. So thank you for that, Heidi.
Yeah.
Jessica, we'll move on to you.
So first, I will say I'm a work in progress in this area. I'm a recovering workaholic. So just a few things I am really trying to be intentional about, especially, this year. And the first thing is taking breaks. So I have a bad habit of starting early, and next thing I know, it's time to cook dinner. So step away from your desk, stretch, walk, relax, whatever. I even have gotten to the point where I will set a meeting on my calendar with myself. I know that sounds crazy, but unfortunately, I am so loyal to my calendar that that's what it came to, that if it's on my calendar, I'll do it. So I have these stops on my calendar. Stay hydrated, eat healthy. I know this stuff sounds like basic things, but I had to get in the habit. I have multiple water bottles at my desk because, again, I will get so consumed in work that I will forget I have to eat, I have to drink. So it makes a difference. Practice mindfulness. That was a big one for me too. So just deep breathing, meditation. I know Heidi mentioned yoga. At Cox, we have access to this free app that you were talking about with your company. And sometimes I have to do that. I have to actually take myself through some breathing exercises at my desk after, a long meeting or a difficult conversation, and it makes a difference. So Heidi mentioned set boundaries. I love that. My husband has been telling me for years about this work phone and personal phone. My goal this year is to start using my work phone that has been collecting dust in my nightstand for 2 years. But you gotta be intentional, and it makes a difference. As far as organizations, how can we, support these practices? I think encouraging the breaks, providing the wellness resources, respecting that work-life synergy that Heidi talked about. It's all of that. We have to be leaders and lead by example. At Cox, we have wellness days that are not included in our personal days. We have fitness centers on campus, and we even have classes virtually for our remote employees to take fitness classes. All of those things are fostering that environment that really promotes that. Again, if I go back to my career 25, 27 years ago, those things didn't matter. Nobody cared. Nobody talked about them. So it's really a new age of wellness that we really have to continue to make sure that we support and not undo all the work, all the great work that we've done in this area over the last few years.
So what I'm hearing you say, Jessica, is let's just get back to basics, right? Things are overly complicated. So let's simplify it. Eat well, exercise, drink your water, Practice mindfulness. You don't have to be on
Right.
your phone or your laptop or tablet all the time. So just again, really keeping it simple, right? And getting back to those basic necessities. Thank you so much, Jessica. And David, rounding us out, any recommendations for practical strategies from you, my friend?
Yeah, I think Jessica, and you hit it on the head. I think when we talk a lot about self-care, we get into this world of, well, I can go get a massage, or I can go to pedicure, I can do these things. And to me, that is self-soothing, right? That is that I'm stressed and I'm breaking to the max, and I need this thing to help me relax enough to be a normal human being. Where what Jessica was talking about is self-care. Am I getting enough sleep? Sleep hygiene is highly underrated. And it's vital to our brain development, to our brain health. We talked a little bit about longevity. Uh, our nutrition is key. Also, are we garbage in, garbage out, right? Water is essential. Are we hydrating and taking good care of ourselves? So self-care is those basics, and we really need to stick to be loyal to ourselves, right? When we talk about that in taking care of ourselves. There's a quote that I heard once that I never forgot. The singer Fantasia Barrino said it, and I live and die by this. She said, "What's in my cup for me, and the overflow is for you." You can't give what you don't have. And so if I'm not filling my cup and taking care of myself, I cannot give. And I take that to heart. And that goes for my family, that goes for my job, that goes for anybody in my life. I take care of this so that I can take care of you.
I wrote down be loyal to yourself. That is such an important ad, David. Thank you so much. These are all easily digestible and easy to implement recommendations, so thank you all for the beneficial tips and advice. I wrote down quite a few of them myself that I'll be implementing because to Jess's point, we are all a work in progress, right? And we're just trying to do better. And I think the hardest part in many cases is simply starting or implementing something that creates a new normal for you because we're all addicted to our habits, right? Whether they serve us or not. So I think we really have to evaluate that. And the thing is, just know that it is far from selfish to prioritize self care and personal wellness. So being intentional and committed to elevating yourself will inevitably produce a better you to give back to those around you and the world and community at large. So in a world full of competing priorities, take back some of your power and give yourself permission to do things that feed your soul and spirit unapologetically so that a culture of care becomes the new normal for you. So thank you all again for taking the time to join us today for our UAGC Culture of Care panel. Thank you to our incredible panelists. And now is the fun part because they will get the opportunity to hear from you and answer some of your questions if some of them might have been in the chat. So Kelly, with that said, I will now take the opportunity to turn the call back over to you. Thank you all again.
Well, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Brittny, Heidi, Jessica, and David. This was absolutely amazing. I got to hear it twice. How lucky am I? And I know this will be recorded and I'm sure put on our website soon for others to go back and listen to and share because my goodness, the insights, the resources, and just all the just practical, simple strategies that you all have shared today were just so enlightening, things that we can implement ourselves. We don't have to be a C-level leader in an organization to do what you've shared today. And I appreciate all of you so much for taking all the time that you've invested over the last many weeks to prepare and be here to share all of that. I think we're ready to take your panel on tour. So, I also just have to say, I'm going to repeat what you just said, Brittny, take back your power. I think you said, take back your power and feed the soul to make our culture of care a new normal. That is, you all have made it so simple. And so I think we just have to really think about putting ourselves first, filling our cups, doing those things that you have all shared. And I just thank you for that. Before I move into any questions here, I just want to also recognize, I hope he's here in the lineup. I don't see everybody right at a glance, but Bruce Steines is my colleague and dear friend, as well as Dr. Vix and Dr. Lucas, who have been here to support us today. So thank you all for being such an important part of making today happen. Now we do have about 5-7 minutes left, it looks like, for questions. We can use the chat, but I think everyone's audio is actually enabled, that you could even come off chat and or come off mute and ask any question, or just share a comment if you'd like to do that. We didn't have the Q&A enabled here as I thought we would, but would anybody, I don't see any questions in the chat. I'm looking at that now. If anyone has a question, feel free to put that in there, or like I said, feel free to take yourself off mute if you'd like to ask a question or share a comment.
I'm going to add a comment. I love this, by the way. Thank you all for being here. Several years ago, I want to let everyone understand that the people on the panel right now don't just talk about this. They actually do what they say over periods of time. And I was trying to put together something I called Commons, which was a virtual student union that in an online environment, it's very difficult for students to engage and interact with each other. And I found it to be a unique way to do it. And I was looking through platforms that we had internally, and one of them was a Connect program. And I was looking for people that could be ambassadors, people to help our students grow and do something. And as I was going through it, a picture, a smiling face came up that was involved here as a student and involved in wanting to do things. And it was Jessica. And this was a long time ago. And I remember that from you. You were just out and you were trying to help students. You were trying to help people. You were trying to grow yourself and educate and learn. And it was the best thing to see you this morning on here again, because you continue to grow and continue to do things. So I just want people to know that it's not just talking about it. They actually believe this. And Jessica, thank you. That's really wonderful. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words.
Thank you, Glenn. Anyone else like to share a comment? Something that you took away from today, or ask the panelists any questions? All right, well, we have a shy group, or they're all just soaking up everything, or they're just ready to maybe give back some time to themselves and do a little bit of care work before their day continues. So I agree. I want to give just another shout out to our amazing panelists, and also a shout out to everyone for showing up today. Thank you so much for sharing your support and really taking the time, like I said at the beginning, to just invest in yourself. That's why we're all here today. And I certainly feel like I've given myself, I've fed my soul after this event. I appreciate all of you and wish you all a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
A great day, everyone.